Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of NintendoFuse's Industry Talk. I'm your host, Barry, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, Adam Koralik, Figured Out Productions.
Hey, how you doing? Where's the actual special guest? Because I'm just some dude. But thank you.
No, you sell yourself
You just gotta get
short.
rid of the word special. I'm just a guy who just showed up on here.
Yeah, just randomly open Skype.
Yeah, like off the street, basically. You're like, oh, dude, I need like a homeless looking guy. Let me that guy. Get him. I'll get him. Yeah, there you go.
That you know what? The secret's out. Now everyone knows how we get guests for this show. We literally just pick up homeless people from the street and say, "Come on."
It works sometimes. I mean, sometimes it comes out. It reminds me of those like open mics from the 80s and stuff. You know, crazy people get up on stage and just say whatever, and you get entertainment.
Hey, sometimes that makes the best show, right? You never know what you're gonna get. It's like a box of nuts.
In all seriousness, thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you so much for being on. It is our pleasure. Now, for viewers, or I guess in this case listeners, since this is a audio version, who may not be a little familiar with your work, just a little bit about yourself and how you got into all this.
Sure. The grand irony is, yes, I am a YouTuber, and we're not using cameras. That would be my bad. I did not know we were supposed to set up for that. That would have been if I had taken that into account, we would be looking at each other. But my bad. So anyway, yes, I am a YouTuber. I've been I'm celebrating my 10th anniversary of YouTube. Like this month, 10 years ago in 2009 is when I uploaded my first video. I've been doing retro video games primarily. In some way, it's either news discussion or it's repairing videos, or it's retrospective type of videos, and all sorts of like pickups videos and travel videos about the best ways to get pickups in different countries and so on and so forth. I've been doing that for the better part of a decade, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll admit, like when I first discovered you, it was actually because of your generation videos.
There you go.
Your generation recaps I found very enlightening, as somebody who studies the industry and analyzes all the different parties at play. I found we shared a lot of the same thoughts, and you gave new perspectives on things that I wasn't thinking about, and as well as your predictions, because I discovered you, I think it was like 2013, when you were doing like the PS4 predictions, the Xbox One predictions, the Wii U predictions, stuff like that. Like I was like, oh, this is really cool. So I've been a fan ever since then. How are you planning on continuing that with the PS5 and the Xbox 2 and all
Most
that?
likely, it's just it's a matter of like when it's closer to that time. Actually, we are getting to that time where you have to do the anniversary videos again. People always love those. That's one. I guess I didn't mention that because I never really think about that. That's one of those things where when you do YouTube, you find out that you establish an audience that's really interested in certain aspects of your content. But to you, that was just something you just did because you had that idea briefly and you don't think about it anymore. And then you realize like there's this whole following for that. And you're like, oh, right, that's coming up again. I guess I have to do that now. Like the retrospectives was really just a random idea that I had. And then all of a sudden everybody's like demanding that I continue that when I wasn't really ever planning to do so. And the same thing goes with anniversary videos. The ones I actually had the most passion for originally was, I didn't even mention it, was I'm a super fan of the Sega Dreamcast. And from day one on YouTube, I just wanted to cover Dreamcast content. I just wanted people to see more of the random accessories, versions of the consoles, eventually games, which unfortunately I never got really around to, but just kind of, going on about the history of that system. And every time I just was like, yeah, I should do something a little different, that subset type of thing would develop its own fan base in a sense. Like, I know I'm just kind of going off here, but like, you'd be amazed what like random things when you do that much variety of content. And I say that you probably don't even know this about me. I worked at my peak on 4 different YouTube channels at the same time. So when you're doing that much content, you'd be amazed what people, if they were fortunate enough to ever be recognized for anything, what they will randomly attach themselves to. Somebody will call you out for this thing. And then the one that always fascinates me the most is when people recognize me for the console cleaning videos. And the reason that's really fascinating is you never see me, you see my hands. but still people were like, oh dude, I love your console cleaning videos. I'm just like, how do you even like how?
Your name is attached to it.
I know, but like my face isn't, so it's I don't know, but it's so those types of things are always kind of fascinating that happen over the course of making YouTube videos. Yeah.
Well, I think that's definitely one of the things about YouTube or any medium is you got to throw a lot of things at the wall and just see what sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, you started into YouTube kind of during its real heyday when it really started getting big. Obviously, the landscape has changed now, but what was it like getting in at that time in
At
2009?
2009, I was a tad, in my opinion, at the time, I was a tad late to the whole thing. I actually wanted to start as early as like 2007, but I just couldn't quite convince myself to do it. At the time, I was actually in film school. I went to Columbia College, Chicago, and I graduated with a film degree. And I was like, okay, I need to produce short film content, and I need to do this, and blah blah blah. And I wanted just a simple hosting website to put stuff up on. The problem is you can't generate that kind of content that quickly, especially, like right out of college. There's not adequate funding or equipment to basically make constant stream of short films. But if you were to just put out the ones you've got, it's a one and done and you're over. So I was like, I need to be able to produce more content. And so I ended up I was like, I know a lot about video games, so I'll cover video game stuff and I'll just try to grow that way. And then eventually that just kind of became the whole thing. So it's funny, like I'm on YouTube 10 years later, and I wouldn't argue that I'm any sort of success story with it, but I am still around. And I know that that's not usually the case with people. And I think that what you said is, about this landscape, it is completely different now. Like I have just over 100,000 subscribers. That at like 10 years ago is like the holy grail, like mission accomplished goal. Now it's like people can accomplish that in like a week if with like one big video. It's not nearly what it once was. But there's a different type of YouTube different types of YouTubers, and a lot of them are not necessarily as personable, and they seek to do it for short-term success to try and get some other avenues opened up. I never did that, and I never really wanted to be some giant YouTuber, and I'm not. But I was able to at least kind of stick around, and I'm kind of this weird relic of the past. Like so much so that people joke about it constantly about how my camera is still from 2009 when I started. But I'm basically a relic from a lost timeline. So when you want to see what YouTube was like when I started, just watch anything on my channel anytime. It's still the way it was. I haven't really upgraded much. I mean, I have slightly better sound equipment and so on and so forth, and the editing techniques are better, whatever. But really, it's a guy in front of a camera just kind of casually talking. There's not really a whole lot of slick editing. There's not a whole lot of like, highly produced content. It's just kind of, let's have a conversation, because that's what YouTube was for like its first 5 years. They had the you in YouTube. It was just a bunch of people coming together just to kind of verbally express themselves on different thoughts and different things. It wasn't what it's become, where it's like up there with Netflix as some sort of competitor for the digital media landscape. Like I said, I'm just a relic. So it's interesting to still be around in that landscape, but yeah, I don't think I could possibly compete if I had to start over. Does that make any sense?
No, it totally makes sense. It really is a tougher field out there, and I'm actually a fan of your style. I'm a fan of just guy in front of the camera, girl in front of the camera talking, because I think in today's day and age, a lot of people don't have that communication skill. They don't know what to do if they were presented with an opportunity or a situation where they had to sit and talk in front to somebody just one-on-one. And I think that's kind of what you're doing, and that's kind of the style is, hey, I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you, and you don't feel, hey, this video has 50,000 views. You don't feel like you are talking to 50,000 people. You feel like you're talking to me. And
Correct.
I think it's almost like a lost art in a sense.
Yeah, I wouldn't sit here and pat myself on the back about anything really, but I will say that's one skill that I do think I have, is that I have, you could call it a curse maybe, the ability to endlessly ramble with the gift of gab, which can make my videos very, like long, needlessly so by a lot of judgment. But you'll notice if you watch them, I don't really edit much because I don't really need to. I just kind of say everything I want to say in one big go. And a lot of the time people are like, where's the script? I'm not seeing it. And I'm like, there's no script. I'm just rambling my thoughts. Now, whether or not you can argue I carry that well or not is up to the user or the individual watching. But you're right when you say that. I've always kind of wanted to treat it like it was just a conversation between two people. In fact, I believe it was the video I put out. I literally put out a video today about travel tips for Japan because a whole bunch of people kept requesting that. It's 97 minutes long. And in it, I sit there and I basically say, like, look, let's just two of us have a conversation, you and me, the listener, and I'll just go through all this stuff in case you're worried about ever going to Japan, like what that's like, and I'll give you a ton of advice. That has basically been the goal almost since day one, was let me make a video that just is like the two of us talking about this thing that interests me. So hopefully that it helps you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, that. Like I said, that's what drew me in right away too, when I saw your the recap videos, because I felt almost like we were having a conversation, and I was almost angry in a sense because I wanted to tell you like, oh yeah, I agree, or hold on, wait, there might be a counterpoint here, but you didn't listen, you just kept going. I'm like, oh yeah, you're a video, damn.
Yeah, there's not much I can do about that, unfortunately.
There's not much.
But that's why the comment section exists.
Exactly. But no, it is, and I'm with you. In fact, I'm sure any of our listeners of our podcast, and I'm sure fellow hosts will sometimes say, Barry, quiet, shut up. I can do the same thing, the gift of gab. I think that makes for a good, or honestly a good video. You don't want to see somebody who's nervous, especially an educational video. And I do think your cleaning and restoration are definitely educational, and your recaps and your predictions. If you don't sound like you know what you're talking about, no one's going to listen to you. So it absolutely has a merit there. And like with you with scripts, I agree. I see so many people and they're like, oh, I got to do this video, I got to write the script. And it's like, script, just go, wing it,
Yeah.
man. Even when doing this show, and I'm sure there might be some people who have listened to some of our shows and think like I have come to any of our guests with a script, and I don't. I come to every one of our guests with just a few little notes jotted down, and definitely some plug information. But everything else, I like it to all be natural. Let's just go with it. Where the conversation takes us is where the conversation takes us.
I can verify that. Before this conversation started, he prefaced it by saying there was no plan. So I'm on board with this. And I agree with that basic mentality. Like, the most I'll do before a video is like, I'll know what I want to talk about. Like, if I'm like, okay, I didn't accidentally sit down with an original Xbox and be like, maybe I'll talk about Xbox. Like, I knew in advance I was going to do that. But when I sat down and just talked, I just talked. And whatever came out is what came out. Now, that'll have pluses and minuses. It's easier to edit. It feels more natural, all that type of thing. But of course, you do occasionally make mistakes, as any human being would. And, you can, as a result, end up rambling or repeating information. But for anybody who's out there who wants to mimic a style from 2009, which you shouldn't do, if you do want to do that, my biggest piece of advice is just work on your ability to speak publicly, because that's essentially what you're doing. You just don't have an audience right in front of you. Just work on your communication skills. Be able to speak clearly, enunciate correctly, expand your vocabulary, and just speak with confidence. Nobody wants to hear like some wimpy dude be like, okay guys, so like I'm gonna talk about the Xbox today. Like, it came out and it was like Microsoft made it, and like nobody wants to hear that. That's not interesting. It's like, okay, off, next video. You have to kind of own the mic in a way. You just have to be confident and assert yourself. And I don't. For me anyway, it's always been kind of natural because, like you, I'm just loud and I have the gift of the gab, and I'm just willing to stand in front of an audience and talk. If I was funnier, I could probably be a pretty good stand-up comedian because I don't mind standing up and doing speeches. Like, I've done that as MC work and stuff like that. But it's a thing that I think less and less YouTubers have now, because that skill isn't necessarily needed on YouTube anymore, or really sought out too much. So like I said, I'm just a relic. But it is interesting to see that, that there is still at least some respect or interest in that type of thing still.
Well, I think of course there's an interest in it, especially considering you're all over the place. You were a hard man to sit down and say let's have a 30-minute conversation
Yeah, tell
because
me
you're
about
you're
it.
you're constantly going all over. Even when we met up, and we've met up twice now in 2 different years at a video game con over here in New Jersey, and obviously that's not your neck of the woods.
Nope,
What's it
I'm in
like?
Chicago. I live in Chicago, for the record.
Yeah, yeah. What's that like though? I mean, like, hey, you know what? You may be a relic of the past, but come on over here and do this show, and you
Oh,
know,
all right. So let me, for those who don't know, I guess I'll elaborate. I basically live on aircraft. I'm constantly in different cities. If you give me a minute, I can actually list all the different cities I've been to this year alone. Uh, Tell them something while I look for this list, because a friend of mine recently asked for this list, and I was like, okay, give me a second, and I had to write it out.
while you're
Uh,
looking for this list, I will say that even this episode in particular, just the filming of this, and this is being filmed on October 6th. I'm not sure when it'll be actually live for everyone to listen to, but this has been in the works since last year. Since last year
that is
when
true.
I got to meet you at a video game con, which was in September of last year, and it is just one of those things where you know, for us here at NintendoFuse, we always appreciate any guest to come onto our stage, so to speak, and we will work around schedules. So this was the first availability he had since September of last year, and
Yeah.
we waited, we waited patiently for it. I think it's worth the wait.
Sorry, but okay. So here's the list. Now, there's going to be multiple repeats in here, and let me just explain the list first, and then we'll talk about why some of this stuff happens. This was in order: Guam, Tokyo, Yap, Chicago, obviously, Newark, New York City, San Francisco, San Jose, Pittsburgh, Toronto, Los Angeles, Boston, Sacramento, Portland, Cowlitz, Washington, Munich, Germany, Salt Lake City, Utah, Denver, Las Vegas, Phoenix, Arizona, Huntington, West Virginia, part of Ohio, Kentucky, Glasgow, London, Porto, Brussels, Paris, Washington, D.C., St. Louis, Houston, Havana, Cuba, Luxembourg, Parsippany, New Jersey, where we just were, Yokohama, Chiba, Machida, and Hachioji, Japan.
That is a very impressive
That's
list.
as of January 1st this year.
My God. So what brings you literally all across the world? Like, what is that like?
There's only so much of this I'm allowed to explain. So being a YouTuber, especially, this is one of the advantages of being a relic, is that my name is still associated with I don't know how else to put this. It being an influencer, despite when it comes to being an influencer, I'll tell you, for anybody who's aspiring to do that, they don't necessarily care about big numbers. Like, I don't get millions of views for video. That's not necessarily what they care about. What they care about is reliability of the individual, and frankly, the individual's ability to work with them and be a voice of sanity. And I can tell you firsthand, when it comes to things like media events and all that stuff, I get sent to a lot of media events for the purposes of video game capture or promotion or video game consultant work, stuff like that. But you'd be amazed how difficult it is to find people in the gaming industry who are actual gamers who are able to do this, because they aren't necessarily the most socially functional. So, for example, I work a lot with Ubisoft sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that they told me is that, because I asked them this question once, I'm like, my numbers do not compete with some of the guys you could be getting, but I never see those guys. And they're like, to be honest with you, we like people that are easier to work with. So in my case, they told me an interesting stat once. They're like, okay, so we find a whole bunch of YouTube channels that we like for one reason or another, and we reach out to them. Less than half ever respond to us. So that's the first part. Then of the other half, only about half of those ever say yes. And of the half that say yes, only half of those ever really show up. And of the few that actually like this, what that means is, if you're Ubisoft, you contacted me, said, hey, we're doing a thing, come on out, we'll pay for everything. I said yes, and then I didn't show up. Does that piss you off?
Of course.
Okay, so that's unfortunately a highly common thing. So you get all the way down to the point where you just have some people that actually successfully show up to these type of things. And of those people who do, most of them are not very socially functional, and they don't make very good impressions, and they don't really get along with people, and they don't build any sort of rapport. Like I said, I'm a relic. I'm weird. I was raised by, my mother taught me as a young child, like the importance of like, business meetings and why that matters and all this type of stuff. And so it was like, okay, I should just go in there and be like socially functional and polite, but also know the industry that I'm trying to work in and just kind of, operate within that space. And that opened a lot of doors because once you start being successful in that area, word of mouth spreads, because the video game industry, as you probably know, since you talk to a lot of these people, is not actually that big. It might seem like it, but it's really not. So when your name is associated with like, we can depend on that guy, put him on the list, you just get invited to more stuff. Now that's not all like video game capture events. Some of that stuff is just like random circumstance of things that happen for one reason or another. In fact, a lot of it is, but it's I would say it's largely coincidental, and I can't imagine it'll last much longer, but I'm enjoying it while it does.
Absolutely. I mean, you literally get to do so many bucket lists right off the bat just by traveling to some of these places,
Mm-hmm.
Now, how many of these are actual? Obviously, some of this like Ubisoft, it's obviously media event. How many of these are actually like conventions, like gaming conventions? Would you say?
I don't have a list in front of me that keeps track of that. A bunch of them are, but like the one I went to right before that was the Missouri Game Con in St. Louis. I'm about to go to Portland Retro Game Expo in Portland.
Nice.
I was actually supposed to go to I actually had to skip out on two because I was just beat. I was supposed to go to PAX West in Seattle, and I was supposed to go to Gamescom in Germany, but in both cases I was like, I need 2 weeks off because I had just finished, I think it was actually just Missouri Game Con, and then I was supposed to do that, and then come back and do another one. And I was like, I needed some space here. And then I got to go to Tokyo Game Show, which was really great. That one was like 3 weeks ago. But I'm not gonna say more selective because I still kind of go wherever I feel fortunate enough to go. But in that case, I was just like, I need a psychological break here because when you fly that much and you change that many time zones, it starts to really mess with you.
I can't even imagine. I'm good for one day at a con, and then I'm usually beat. In fact, Video Game Con is one of the few that I've actually done 2 days back to back.
What's in your backyard, isn't it?
It's very close, but it's a tiring day. It's a long day. Even New York Comic Con is in my backyard. I did it 2 days. One time, one year I did 2 days, and I came home and I was like, nope, never again. It's just there's so much to do. There's so much to see. There's a lot of walking around. It takes it out of me, and it's a lot of people don't realize like, going to some of these things, it's very draining, and I can't. That's just me traveling either via car or by train or by ferry. I can't even imagine flying different time zones all the time. So yeah, a break I would request a break too. I'd be like, no, need a break.
To be fair, so do you do these as just an attendee, or do you do these as like media, or what?
Well, it depends. New York Comic Con I just do as an attendee. Video Game Con I went as a vendor.
As a vendor, right.
And so, I get Play NYC I do as media and stuff like that.
Sure. So media, for those that are out there and ever curious by this, I should state that in almost all of these instances, I was always media, which makes things a lot easier because there's generally a break room. You have specific objectives. You can cut certain lines. You can get VIP access to stuff. So it makes things better. But when you do like the vanilla attendee version, that's when I'm like, I can't do more than a day of a convention at that point. Perfect example is this year's Star Wars Celebration was here in Chicago, and I went to that, and I was like, a day of this just as a regular attendee, and I was like, I want to die. Because you're just walking around endlessly with no plan, no purpose. You're just looking around at merch and stuff, and like you're like, oh, I could go. Everything's really expensive. It's like it's a totally different world when you have some sort of VIP or media access to things than it is to attend as a regular attendee. So I want to give that preface. If I had to do everything as a regular attendee, there's absolutely no way I would be doing this stuff.
Yes, I do agree. Definitely, press does get some benefits, and it does make things easier. But it's still tiring. It's still a lot of walking. It's still a lot of talking.
Absolutely.
So it's work instead of being there. Of course,
that's literally the job, dude. I'm doing the job. It's work. It's work defined.
It is absolutely work to find. So I mean, sometimes like you said, you did press. Sometimes you do guests as well. Now, what is it like being on the other side of the table where you're no longer press? You're just there as a guest.
Depends on the context. Generally, it's pretty good, but I can find. So so when I go to AVGC, they kind of said it best that I was a unique guest because I'm the only guest who never tries to like sell anything. So AVGC, I've been there 4 years in a row, and every other year they always have other guests that are other YouTubers, generally bigger, more successful ones than me. But like like Norm, the gaming historian, Pat the NES punk, Angry Video Game Nerd, whatever. They all have tables where they have merch and stuff like that, or they have like autograph lines where they're charging for autographs. I think maybe AVGN does that type of thing. I don't do that. I just have, if I have a table, and many conventions I've been to, I don't even request one. I'm like, I don't need one. I'm not going to do anything with it. I don't try to sell anything. So to me, it's a completely different experience. It's just like, oh, I get to walk around this convention for fun, for free. And then I get to go hang out with people and meet people and interact with the people who are working there. And so the people at AVGC were like, I don't want to give any specific names, but one of them in particular is like, because I asked him like, why do you keep bringing me back when there's obviously bigger guests you've had in the past? And they're like, because you actually interact with us. They're like, the other guests just sit there, they do their thing, they try to make their money, whatever, and they go. You don't do anything. You just chill and you come chat with us. It's like you're bothering us, not bothering, but coming up and communicating with us and like having a conversation, and we forget you're even a guest. And we're like, that guy was fun, bring him back. Like that's because I don't try to sell anything. I don't have any merch to get rid of. I'm just kind of doing it to support wherever I am. So in the case of AVGC, it's run by one of my best friends. So I was like, if you think me being at your convention will somehow make your convention better, then I'm happy to be there. And that's typically my logic with stuff like that. So it can be, for me, it's like I said, it's a unique experience because it's like halfway between just attending and then actually doing whatever the normal guest role is. I've never done that thing where I try to sit down and just sell my stuff and focus on my own self and then move on. And I'm not judging any other YouTubers who do that. We all have to make our own living our own way. But that's never been my version of it. And as you can tell just by listening to me, I love to just talk and hear my own voice, as I've been accused of. So I'm perfectly happy to do like panels and stuff. When they're like, hey, we need this panel, I'm like, dude, I'm on it. Let's go up. Let's do it. I'll talk about anything. I don't even care. And typically there's no plan for that. It's like, let's just do a Q&A for an hour. And everybody's like, you can't have a Q&A for an hour because like you'll run out of stuff. I'm like, oh, you don't know me then, because I can just ramble for eternity with any sort of random little subject. And hopefully make it somewhat interesting. Now, of course, anybody listening could dispute that this is interesting or not, but that's you asked the question, so that's the answer.
Yeah. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm the same way. Like if they said, hey, you want to do a panel, I'll be like, yeah, absolutely, let's go. I've actually been trying to get some of our other NintendoFuse guys over and say, let's do a panel, but travel distance and all that, unfortunately, isn't always optimal. But no, that is awesome that you're able to do that. You're fortunate. You're in a situation where you are able to go to all these places. You are able to follow your commitment, and I think that's something that is a lost art, and it shouldn't be a lost art. And that's just reliability. Just being reliable, just being able to be dependable. Like, hey, you know what? We need somebody that can do this, and oh yeah, they'll do it. That seems so simple. Like that's a no-brainer, but it's
like
not.
I said, I'm a relic, man. It's funny because Ubisoft's not the only one. People at Sega have told me the same thing. Other companies I've worked with have said the same thing. They're like, the percentage of reliable influencers who actually show up and we can trust to respect our content. And that doesn't mean give a good review, because if you watch my YouTube channel, I got news for you. There's not a single review on my channel. I don't do video game reviews. So I don't do that. So what they want is just, people who they are consistent and they know that they're going to get honest feedback from. That's actually a large part of these events a lot of the time, is they want people that they're like, okay, this guy's opinion, he will tell us the truth. And at the same time, he'll actually show up. He won't be here just for free food and then bounce the second he's here. Or he won't be here for a trip and never arrive or any of that type of stuff. Like, this dude's dependable. And I guess I don't know why that would be. I would think that a lot of more modern YouTubers want that, but then other aspects of real life get in the way, whether it's their real life relationships or whatever, or fear of flying. A lot of people have that. A lot of people have a fear of travel.
Yeah.
I do not. And I came from a very unique situation with that. When I was a kid, my mother, in her job, she was forced to travel constantly. But because of what her situation was, she could get her company to pay to bring myself and my sister along in most instances. So I was constantly traveling, even though we lived in Chicago. It's like, oh, we're going to Florida tomorrow. Okay, I guess we're just going. So you would just go. So by the time I was 13, I kid you not, by the time I was 13 years old, I had been to all 50 states.
Wow.
Yeah, plus DC. So it was like travel has never been strange to me. So as an adult, that just carried over. It's like, okay, get on a plane tomorrow. You're going to San Francisco. All right. Like the world becomes really small to you when that happens, because a plane is a magical device that takes you. I'm in Chicago right now. In a matter of hours, I could be standing in San Francisco and be like, oh, yeah, there's the udon place I really like. Anyway, let's go. I know exactly where the Uber pickup is. You know what I mean? Like I know too many places too well as a result of that. Like airports are like, to me, they're just malls with giant flying buses. I don't know how else to put it, but that's kind of, it's a weird perspective that eventually came into being. And that's also useful for companies, because I'll tell you another thing that they don't like is when they have to baby people into like, okay, but how do I travel? What time do I need to get to the airport? Do I check bags? Do I not check bags? I don't ask them questions. I'm like, all right, see ya. I know how to travel. It's not hard. And that's the only reason, and I'm going to keep it completely real. That's the only reason someone at my relatively low level on YouTube could be that useful to them, is just like, okay, that guy's easy, and we'll just bring him because he already gets the ropes. We don't have to train this person. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I fit into a really weird crack where I've been around long enough to have reliability and some sort of name, but I'm not big enough where I could potentially damage their brand, or that I have any right to demand anything. I just fit into this weird space, and that's the only reason for stuff like that to work.
See, I'd love to do that if I enjoyed travel more.
Yeah, but see, that's the problem. Most people don't. Most people are like, oh, I have this idea of travel. I would love to go do this and that. But then they're like, well, the logistics. And the second you start bringing that up, it's over. Like, I don't worry about that. I'm like, okay, the flight's at 5. All right, let's go. Like, I just go. You don't really think about it. You're like, you travel so much, you get to the point where you know what all the essentials are. Like, okay, I need toiletries, I need clothes, I need my passport, and let's go. Like, there's really nothing else about it. Like, you can plan for it with certain things. You can be like, all right, I'll get an international data plan. That way my phone works in like every country I'm going to go to, except for Cuba. That was the one I went to where it didn't. But and then you understand your credit card company, you tell them in advance, like, here's where I'm going. And they're like, okay, here's all the countries you can go to. You don't need to call us anymore. Like that type of thing. The whole world becomes like, I'm sure you have been to another country, right?
Nope.
Really? Not even Canada?
Not even Canada.
Wow. Okay, so this is this thing to describe.
I've been across, the United States. I've been to the West Coast and North and South, but.
So the point I was going to make, and unfortunately you can't be able to verify this, but when you step into another country, you feel different. You feel like, oh wow, like you're outside of the bubble. You feel like you're outside of, like, I don't even know how else to put it, like almost like you're outside the womb. It just feels different. It's a feeling that I know people have when they step outside the country, because you're like, everything I know about laws and all that type of stuff, it doesn't apply here. Everything is different, right? Yeah. Even if it's just Canada, it's different. That feeling went away from me like 5 years ago. Like, I don't feel that anymore. The whole world becomes an extension of just like, I'm here, whatever. It's hard to explain. I want you, next time we do this, I want this to happen after you've been to at least Canada, and then come back and we'll have this discussion, and you'll be like, okay, dude, I know what that feeling is now. I get it.
My wife does want to go to Niagara Falls, the Canada.
Niagara Falls is easy, dude. You live in New Jersey, you can be up there in like 6 hours.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
You can do it. And plus, the American side of Niagara is garbage. Don't go there.
Yes,
cross over to the Canadian side where it's safe.
That's exactly what I've heard. Yeah. So that will probably be my big adventure.
Do it. It's not a bad thing. Crossing the border, as long as you got a passport, you're easy. Yep. It's easy, and like I said, Niagara it's Canadian Vegas. It's go have a good time.
Canadian Vegas, I like that.
Mhm.
Now, I do have to ask, with all this travel, obviously you're going crazy. How do you have time to play any
I don't.
games?
Most of the games I get to play are at events or conventions themselves. Socially, recreationally, it's. Did you ever watch when you were a kid and you went to school? Did you ever watch movies?
Yeah,
Did you have to write reports or anything on the movies?
not often,
But you do know what I'm
but
talking about. It's like, oh, we're gonna
yes.
watch this movie, and then you have to. It's kind of the same experience. You do so much of that you get like this isn't even fun anymore. You're just kind of analyzing something rather than being able to enjoy it. Video games have become a little bit like that. Like when I'm home, which is rare, I like to just sit down and chill with other forms of media. When I can play a video game recreationally, I will, but it's not what it used to be for me as far as a form of entertainment. It's become more of a form of work.
Yep, I know that feeling. I know that feeling reviewing games. Sometimes it's like, oh, this great game came out and I really want to play it, but I've got these other two I need to play, and it's like almost like a dark cloud over those two games.
Exactly.
It's like I don't really want to do this, but I have to do it.
Yeah,
Now,
exactly. See, you get it.
oh, I get it. I think anyone Nintendo Fuse, we get it. We get it. We've had sometimes at our Game of the Year awards, we've had like the worst game we were forced to play. Not the worst game we played, it's the worst game we were forced to play. Um, and it's true that not every game is great. There is definitely some stinkers. I'd be surprised that you aren't rocking the Switch with all this travel with the
Oh,
airport.
I have a Switch, and there was a phase where I was doing that, but then I got to the point where it's like I have to catch all these like 6 a.m. flights. I'd rather sleep, or I'm gonna try to sleep. And then you realize you're just carrying around this big thing that's taking up a bunch of space in your bag, and depending on your objectives of wherever you're going, it's just another thing to carry that you're probably not gonna get much mileage out of. Like, dude, I'm not going to Japan to sit in the hotel room and play my Switch. You know what I
Absolutely
mean?
not.
Like, I'm if I'm going anywhere interesting, then I'm gonna enjoy that space in some way or somewhere or another. And then planes, I don't know the last time you flew, but they're
Last year.
okay. So I don't know what airlines you fly on. I typically, if I can, I will try to get one of the real airlines like United Airlines, to a lesser extent
Okay.
like Alaska Airlines, the American Airlines, whatever. But most of them have improved to the point where like your phone can integrate with their Wi-Fi system, and they have like a giant plethora of entertainment on board. That's
Hmm.
like actually how I catch up on a lot of movies, is just
Yeah.
watching them on planes. And I actually really like it psychologically because you disconnect from the internet and you're just like, oh, I'm free up here. Like it's actually quite nice. But so the last thing I want to do is sit there and like go right back into that mode of like, all right, I'm gonna play a game. First of all, the Switch itself in portable mode, it gives me like carpal tunnel. Like it hurts. I don't really enjoy playing it that way. And I know I can bring the Pro controller, but then think about how much stuff I'm actually bringing for the purpose
Ha-
of
have
playing on a
you have
plane.
you seen the Demon X Machina Joy-Con controllers from Hori?
I have not.
You need to look those up. Those are
Okay.
incredibly comfortable. They don't have all the Joy-Con bells and whistles,
Hmm.
but they have like trigger buttons, like a turbo button and all that stuff, programmable buttons, and they're nice and big, and they turn your Switch into a Game Gear pretty much.
I'm
But
gonna ask you to send me a link to that after this is over.
yes, oh, they're unbelievably comfortable, especially for bigger hands. Unbelievably
Perfect.
comfortable.
But okay, so that notwithstanding, that's kind of my point. Is like I don't that's not I don't get enough joy out of that. Whereas I can at least chill with a movie.
Yeah.
But that might also be because I've been doing this for like 10 years. So to me, it's like, you get kind of burned out in certain ways. Like, don't get me
Yes.
wrong, I love video games, I love playing video games, but it has to kind of be in the right context. And as much as I loved aspects of the Switch, playing it on a phone or playing it on the screen on a flight is not necessarily the way I want to do it.
Yeah. Oh, I get you. Sometimes even just doing analyzing the industry, sometimes I find myself enjoying more watching other people's reactions to games and seeing how games do and perform versus actually playing the game
Yeah,
itself,
exactly.
which is so weird. And to think like why am I not playing this game? But there's no time. I'm in the middle of like 100 games, but I'm really enjoying watching how this is performing and other people's reactions to the game more than anything else.
Exactly.
It is a weird, warped way of looking at it, and I guess that happens from working in games media for so long. It definitely changes your perspective a bit.
Yeah, it really does. And don't make us, to anybody listening, I don't think either of us is in any way, shape, or form ungrateful for this type of thing.
Oh,
We're
absolutely
just
not.
explaining the process as it happens psychologically over the course of time. These, my friends, are the results of doing this for 10 years. You get certain major pluses, certain things everybody goes like, oh, that's great, I'm so envious. But then at the same time, there are the downsides. Video games to me have become largely like watching a movie in school. It's not quite the same fun experience it once was because you get more jaded. I went through film school and it's the same process there. Like I really loved film and video. That's again why I went there. I wanted to make movies, whatever. And that process ends up breaking down films for you to the point where you're like, I know too much about how they shot Jaws, so I can't necessarily enjoy it anymore. So in a weird way, latching myself onto the video game industry was a way to try to rekindle my love of the film industry. Does that make any sense?
Makes
By
total
trying
sense.
to try to forget what I learned about films, so I can once again just enjoy them as entertainment.
Yeah, I think that's as a writer, I certain TV shows I just can't watch just because I know what's going to happen. Like it's so predictable. It's like, oh, I know it. So I do need that little bit of disconnect. And games have been very much that for me. But like you said, like when I first started in the NintendoFuse and stuff, like anytime there was a game, hey, who wants to review this? Yes, me, because the perks. Hey, I got free games. All right, this is fantastic. And your analogy of watching a movie in class and then writing a report on it is so true. Because sometimes you're gonna get, Terminator 2, and sometimes you're gonna get The Room, like you're gonna get
Yeah.
polar opposites here. And very soon you start like, wait a minute, I shouldn't just grab everything. I need to focus more on what I'm going to enjoy and be a little more fair to the developers. And I know you feel that type of feeling as well when it comes to games.
Exactly. And to use Terminator 2, it's a perfect example. So to pretend Terminator 2, like you're sitting there, you're enjoying it. Would you enjoy it if after 20 minutes in, they paused it and they're like, now when Arnold proceeded to get on this motorcycle, what do you think the director was trying to say? And you're just like, I don't want to analyze it. I was just enjoying the movie and now you stopped it. That's pretty much what happens with this type of thing.
Oh my God. That would ruin a lot of movies. Just I don't care. Just keep going.
Yeah, exactly. And that's unfortunately kind of where you get to with video games as well when you're doing the purposes of reviews. Now, again, I don't do reviews, but I do immerse myself in that world. And I have to do, kind of feedback that's not necessarily for public review, but you get, that type of a deep analysis of a video game. And it's just kind of like, yeah, I enjoyed shooting it until I had to explain how the shooting mechanic was good or bad. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
when you have to overanalyze the game and nitpick it
precisely.
down and go, oh, look, you clipped here in this one frame. Like I don't care. It's like I just want to play.
Yep,
Now,
exactly.
now you going forward. Obviously you claim you're a relic of the past. But what about going forward? Where do you see your channel, Figured Out Productions, going in the next 5, 10 years, kind of deal? Like, what's your goal, or is it just to travel the world in 80 days, kind of deal?
To be honest, I don't know. Like this year, I did a lot of shifting. As I mentioned before, I used to work on 4 channels at the same time. One is Game Society Pimps, which I'm no longer with, but they are still around, doing their own thing. One is Blame Society Films, which I just worked on. They again are still around, and then Machinima. I'm sure you remember
Yeah.
Machinima.
I remember
Machinima ceased to exist, and that had like kind of a ripple effect, partially through us. And so I started getting offers for other work, and I just decided to kind of take that at the same time and just kind of maintain my actual personal YouTube channel. So at the moment, I'm kind of just looking. I don't know if there's any specific plan. It's just kind of keep where I'm going, keep what I'm doing, and hope that it continues to in some way escalate and gets better. But I can't sit here and say like, well, in 5 years I want 1 million subs, because that's a ridiculous
Yeah.
ambition. And there is no specific goal like that. I guess it would be, from a financial perspective, it would be nice if it was the channel was more financially stable. But beyond that, like that sounds so like, oh, I'm only in it for the money, which I'm not. Like my whole thing was always like, I just wanted to have a conversation with people about something I was passionate about. And that's still the goal. but it would be nice if it paid a little better to make that process easier, as opposed to having to take so many side gigs and things like that. You know what I'm saying?
100%. Yeah,
Oh,
it's unfortunate with the change of landscape. It's become harder and harder to do this full time, really.
well,
Which
I'm
is
not complaining, because the thing is, the average YouTube career at best is like 3 years. Like I said, I'm a relic. I should not still be around by like all laws of YouTube physics. I should not be here. like, but I only can function just by cobbling together some sort of weird career. That's the best way to put it. But you know, I'm happy to still be around. I'm gonna keep kind of rocking that formula because it's been working for me. And we'll just hopefully it goes to some other level that I'm not necessarily looking for. And that might be, in a weird way, part of the success. Is the success came from the fact that I wasn't seeking it.
yeah.
As
Well,
opposed to like, well, in 5 years I'm gonna have 1 million subs, and then everyone's gonna be my friend, or whatever the hell people's goals are. I never set any of that out. It was just kind of like, I fell into this because, again, I told you this earlier. My goal was actually to go through film school to like
yeah.
make movies, and I accidentally fell into what most 12-year-olds would dream of as the fantasy career, where it's like, oh, I get to make videos about video games and I get to go all over the world and play video games. So you just go, okay, hopefully it works out for as long as it can.
Well, absolutely. And I think the success of your channel and the dedication of your fans is a testament to the fact that you aren't conforming to what modern YouTubers are doing. You are sticking with your guns, you're sticking with what worked, and you're sticking with what made many people, myself included, fall in love with your channel to begin with. It's just like that conversation, just that one-on-one feeling that hey, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna talk about this, and it's like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, and hopefully people continue to like that style. At least I hope it continues to have some sort of audience for a while. There's always the possibility, because we're the nostalgia generation, so there's always, hey, remember that thing? Let's bring that back. Like, I might just be so old and be around for so long that I become cool again. You know what I'm saying? That's a possibility. Just give it another 10 years. If I'm still doing this. Like, dude, I remember you from 20 years ago. Wow. I am getting to that point, dude, where it's kind of creepy, where I'm getting more and more messages like, wow, this channel's still around. I haven't watched you since I was a kid. And then I see other ones like, dude, I literally grew up watching you. And here's one of the stories that made me feel like super old. This year, I was at Too Many Games. You ever been to Too Many Games? It's close to.
It's
Oh,
Philly,
you
I
should go, dude. It's in your neck of the woods, like a little bit distant, but Philadelphia. It's not far for you. You should go. It's basically AVGC with much more space and much more content. Very similar faces. Anyway, I was at that, and I'm hanging out with Shane Lewis, Rerez TV. Do you know him?
Yep.
Another YouTuber. You do?
I haven't had the chance to speak with him, but I do know of him. I do watch
You know of him.
Rez.
Okay.
I actually contacted him a little bit ago, and he's also been super busy. He's like, oh, I'll get back to you about doing industry talk, and
Yeah.
just never heard back from him.
Yeah, he's a really good friend, but he is also super busy. Like, he works around the clock on his YouTube channel. But anyway, so I'm hanging with him at the convention, and he's talking to a dude, and then the dude comes over to me. He's like, oh my God, Adam, like, he shakes my hand. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I grew up watching you. It's such cool to meet you. Can we take a photo, all this stuff? And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then he's like, oh, okay, thanks. Bye. And Shane's just looking at me like, how come you didn't like engage more? I'm like, I did. I engaged in the normal like way that I usually do. And he's like, you don't know who that was, do you? And I said, no. He's like, that was Scott the Woz.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what? I was like, the thing is, I'd heard the name, but I didn't know who he was. And he starts showing me, he's like, yeah, he's like 750,000 subscribers. He'll be in 1 million. He's like, on YouTube for 1 year type of thing. He basically replaced JonTron. And I'm like, and this dude watched me growing up? And he's like, yeah. I was like, oh, because he's like 22. So I was like, I'm old. So that means this dude was watching me when he was like 12 years old. And I was like, oh, man. So that's the point I'm at.
Oh, hey, you know what? That's, like you said, nostalgic. Yeah, that's gonna be your grasping right there. Like, hey, can't get rid of me yet. I'm nostalgic.
Exactly.
I'm comfort food.
Exactly. And I think it's gonna keep coming back around because it has. Without sharing too many stories, you'd be amazing how many people who have like actual power in the industry have similar situations where, like, I don't want to say anybody specific here, but I did meet like a corporate overlord, one of the corporate overlords of one specific video game company, who apparently had been watching me for a really long time, and then like fangirled, and then we found out that, or well, I should say, I found out that he worked for said company, and that has opened certain doors, and it was like, wow, that's insane. So you'd be amazed who becomes a fan and then ultimately becomes a friend out of something, just virtue of the fact that you're a relic that's been around since they were a kid or whatever.
And I think that's actually important because I think people need you don't get anywhere in this world without friends. And I think so many people will get kind of stuck up or like, oh, you're below me or whatever. And I think it's important to just be friendly with everybody and to just, hey, you never know who you're going to need to rely on and who you're going to need to have your back. And it never hurts to have more friends. And that's probably one of the best things about doing this show is I've met so many people. I made so many new friends in the industry, and it's just great because you never know. And it's awesome because we all have the same common hobby. We have the same common personality. We all love games to the point that we're in this industry.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I never look at it like, oh, I should be nice to everybody because it might pay off for me. It's more like I'm just not, or at least I try not to be. But like,
Don't be.
yeah, don't. It's like it's just basic advice. But you're right. A lot of personalities that can't handle it. There, like I said earlier, there is and I'm sure you noticed it as running any sort of video game outlet. There is that hostile group that cannot function. Now, a large percentage of gamers, unfortunately, are not great social functioners. That doesn't mean they're jerks or anything, but it does mean there's a very narrow band, and you seem to be in it, of personalities that are not jerks, that are socially functional, and can also be like competent, video game influencers. So congratulations.
Thank you. I'm honored, honestly. It's one
all
of
I
those.
said basically was that you were a functional human being, but for
I
some
know.
reason that's like a compliment.
It's a compliment now in 2019. That
Mhm.
is a compliment to be a competent human being. There we go. It's a tongue twister.
Mhm.
Well, I try, but I'm nothing without the friends that I surround myself with. To be honest with you,
Same for all of us, man.
it is very, very true. And you talk about anniversaries. 10 years for you. Nintendo
This
Fuse.
month.
We're doing it. We're actually in just a couple days of filming this. We have our 10th year anniversary podcast, so we're right there with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and Nintendo Fuse is as old as you. But yeah, it's definitely been a changing landscape over the last 10 years. Just the whole industry as a whole. How much it has changed, especially as a physical collector. It's been crazy, but that is a whole topic for another time. And I'm sure
Oh,
we
dude,
can.
yeah,
we,
no,
we,
that's because, well, all right, I'm not going to go into this. I'm just going to say one brief thing. One problem with being around that long is you get super into something. Like I'm super into the Dreamcast, right? So I finished my Dreamcast set before I even started YouTube. It was like 2008. I was like done with it. And, people were asking me for years because I had so many Dreamcast videos. It's like, oh, how much should I pay for like this game? And I would give them information based on what I remembered it being the case, only to find out later it was completely wrong because times have changed, which makes sense, but I hadn't really thought about it because I was no longer looking up what a copy of Mars Matrix goes for. So people were like, Mars Matrix is like a $150 game or whatever. And I'm like, it was like $5 all day at Toys R Us. They could not get rid of it. What are you talking about? Like, things have really changed. So that in of itself, like you said, could be an entire conversation.
Yes, and we'll definitely have to do this again just to talk all on that topic, because I think that's a whole new can of worms.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but we should probably wrap this up. So Adam, I do want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your very, very busy, crazy schedule to sit down and talk with me today. That's very
Yeah,
much
thanks for
appreciated.
having me. Thanks for
And
working around that, because
oh,
in good timing too, because I'm about to go to like a West Coast excursion soon, so and then back to Japan. So it'll be yeah. So this
it'll be a
worked out
while.
quite well. Yeah.
So for any of you listening, if you haven't seen The Relic, that is Adam, and
Yep.
you are curious about his content because his content is excellent, you
It's
should go
excellent
over
in
to.
2009, but thank you.
It's still excellent now. You sell yourself short. It's still excellent now. Especially, and what's interesting too is quickly just going back and watching like your recaps and going back to your predictions. Like I do it with our podcast. Go back to like what are our prediction videos, like E3 predictions, just to see how wrong we were or how right we were. And it's interesting just to to see how much you get right and how much you get wrong. But
Mhm.
those videos are all great. All should be checked out. YouTube.com, Adam Koralik. Go there. It's actually the same on Twitter. Your Twitter's at Adam Koralik and
Yeah,
Facebook is
everything
Adam
is.
Koralik
Yeah.
official. Check Adam out. He is amazing. Wonderful YouTuber, wonderful human being, and has the gift of gab, which I'm a kinship to, so I'm all for it.
I
Adam again.
appreciate the upsell, but man, is that's a lot of pressure. That's like going into like standing in front of a stand-up comedian and you're like, dude, we have to go watch this guy's show because he's really funny. Now the stand-up comedian's like, that's a lot of pressure.
Oh, please. You 10 years, right? So, you obviously got the staying power.
Man, it's 10
Uh,
years of existing.
coasting by.
Yeah, the way like barnacles can survive on the bottom of a boat, like that way of 10 years. There you go.
So you're selling yourself short.
Right.
But yeah, definitely check out Adam. Adam, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And for all your Nintendo news, gaming news, podcasts, industry talks like this, game chats, and a bunch of other videos, go to NintendoFuse.com, our YouTube NintendoFuse, and check out below for our Discord where we have game developers, YouTubers, publishers, the works, as well as just the general public, and us, where you could talk with us any time of the day. Have yourself a wonderful day. Take care, and we'll see you next time.